They want me to talk more and more about the galactic intervention on planet Earth. The galactic intervention is not the United Nations. Because some people are worried that the United Nations are going to come and take over America. And everyone knows that these United Nations forces are, they don't report to the people of America. So we don't want them. And it's mostly because we just don't want them, because they're foreign. But the Galactics have announced that because planet Earth is such a shit show, that they're going to come and step in. And they know that people don't want foreigners coming in, but they're just saying, sorry, we're conquering your planet. So just have to figure it out, because in Earth history, plenty of times countries have been conquered. So just imagine that a foreign country conquered your country, wherever you are. And I'm calling this new country the Galactic country, because they're from a different planet. Do they have a country on their planet? Let's say they have divisions. Their home country is not really the country, it's the organization, the Galactic Company, corporation of companies. And never getting too far from what difference is a company from a country? Can you conquer a corporation? Yes. How do you conquer them? You can have a merger or an acquisition. Or you can have a divestiture. Or you can have the corporation wound down. You can buy a shell corporation, which is all the legal work that you need to carry out a business already done. It's called a corporate shell, and you can buy it ready to go, so you don't have to go through and have all those things done. It's just, the standard contract is that, a corporation's got to register with its political authority. Anyways, I'm just saying that corporations can be conquered. And, at the very worst kind of way of being conquered is your competitor bankrupted you. So, the Galactic Corporation is of the political area they're representing is a Milky Way galaxy. So these galactics that represent the whole of Milky Way galaxy are here to conquer Earth. They have certain rules that we're breaking. So their law is now in effect. They're taking names and kicking asses. In other words, they're no namby-pamby bunch of plastic shaman. They're here and they're enforcing their will. So their will is their regulations, which promote freedom, believe it or not. But because we're breaking so many laws on galactic freedom for one another, plus the other species on this planet, and that is where we are in a big no-no area. Humanity is in a big no-no area in a lot of ways. Primarily, it is the eating of other animals for food or sport. And we haven't even got into the cannibals of adrenochrome. Other areas that we have violated galactic law is the laws on private property, especially land ownership. We are in violation of all kinds of common area law. Common law is that you are a source energy being and you are undeniably run by source. Therefore, if we come to an area that looks like it was not run by source, how do we know? Primarily in an inverted civilization. An inverted civilization is insert word here, which is your world, insert earth world there. In other words, if we don't like it, we're not able to change it. We pointed out to you that you're in violation, and we expect you to generally get involved with your own sources and start saying, this is in violation of the galactic code. Now, some people will say everything is already by agreement on planet Earth, and I know a plastic shaman that says that. However, the spirit of the galactic constitution, let's call it, it's maybe not that, but the general law of the Galactics is you, no, no, no. The answer is get yourself involved with, generally speaking, ayahuasca. Because somebody tried magic mushrooms, and the problem with magic mushrooms is mushrooms eat biological material. It might be living, it might be dead. In other words, if there was a tree that blew down in a windstorm and it's lying there with its roots exposed to the air, the mushroom will send little tentacles of itself into that wood and it will begin to decompose that wood. So mushrooms are eaters of other species for energy. They don't have a problem with meat eating. Mushrooms don't. The spirit of mushroom is, well, if there's an animal on planet Earth that falls to the ground and my spores are there, I'm going to invade that area and conquer it and turn it into a food source for me. So you can't always say that just because you took a psychedelic you get the right answer. The reason I don't know the answer for ayahuasca is I don't know what the ayahuasca vine uses for food. So we need a different kind of law based upon a being that is a source energy being. In other words, doesn't eat other plants and animals and mushrooms and algae or insects or whatever. It gets its energy directly from, for example, chi. And how do you get your chi? Some people say it comes from the sun. The sun does feel good, and it might be a source of chi. I'm not sure. Nevertheless, the idea is that you are getting your energy directly from source. And if that outpictures as you eating a garden salad, then the Galactics are still going to say you're eating other physical beings. And then you say, what about grain? They would say that is the seed of that plant. And you say, yeah, but they make way more than are needed. The rest is... then they say, then that could be considered a food source for you. And then you say cows because you breed them to eat them as meat. And the answer there is you have got issues with some of your own people. Some of your own humans have major issues with meat eating. So you don't have to turn to the Galactics and say we have a huge issue here. And, the way that this issue was dealt with slavery was you would have slave states and free states. Is that the end resolution, that you allow it in certain places and not in other places? No, the answer is we are free states. And we look at you as wrong. Some people say it's not spiritual in the spirit of oneness to say that's wrong. And our answer is, don't be stupid. A plastic shaman is a white guy who says that he's using Aboriginal cultural information. A plastic shaman. It's a racist term. It's a racist term because it says that a white person can't learn an Aboriginal trade or an Aboriginal culture good enough to be a representative of that Aboriginal tradition. It's racist. You have to be very careful of people who say, I'm a minority group and I'm being oppressed by racism. Because my friend, the plastic shaman, would say, you are agreeing to it. It's in your reality, which means you have agreed to it being there. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. So you're vibrating at the level where this is appearing. A racist, plastic shaman hating Aboriginal or ally of the Aboriginal. It just seems like it's another wedge issue, It's like, I'm sorry I was born with the white color skin, therefore, let's go with, what's exclusively white? White culture. You have to find a good reference for Europeans, Australians, and white New Zealanders. Everyone has to be white to represent this culture. I know the sunburnable culture. White people turn red if you put them in the sun without sunscreen for any long length of time, except maybe Wim Hof, the guy who can go into ice cold water and not freeze to death. Maybe Wim Hof would be an outlier who's white that, he can handle cold water. I don't know if he can handle sunburn. Wim Hof, if you're out there. The whole point is, you're just saying that your culture is tied to your skin color or your line of descent, your linearity. My mother and my mother's mother and her mother's mother were a direct line of Aboriginal people. And we're the only ones, and we have a monopoly on our stuff. In other words, it's cultural trademarking, and I've seen it called that in Wikipedia. It's like intellectual property. And only the people with the right bloodlines and the right color skin, and they know the culture as it is known amongst us, our group. Well, we got here first, and by the way, we're taking over the word Aboriginal. So we're Aboriginal from I'm waiting a long time on where from, mostly because who gives a rat's ass where you're from? It's because you're brainwashed into believing you are your forefathers' genetic material, and that gives you some kind of a lineage, or you were brought up by these particular lineage of people. And so on. And it gets into, you feel you have a personal right and a group right to this particular stuff. Your intellectual property, cultural property, traditional lands, traditional laws, traditional common sense, etc. So the whole issue is, again and again, this is my stuff. And in the end, even if I share it with you, it's still mine. Which means that the others are in some way enslaved to your domineering attitude that you own this stuff. So on planet Earth, getting back to the Galactics and the way they see things, they look at our world as backwards in so many ways that we have what are known as distortions. Distortions of what a true source energy being in alignment with the will of source wants for you. Well, then you're going to say, well, if this source is all powerful, then I was always a tool of it. Which gets into the point of, again and again, we keep running into roadblocks about what we know as Earth humans, because we're used to Earth human, the places that we've experienced. And doesn't mean we understand galactic perspective, because, face it, as far as I know, I haven't been off planet. I say as far as I know because it's possible that I've been put into a duplicate of the original planetary hologram, etc., etc. Okay, kids, I've gone way too long on this topic, so I'm going to cut it off here. But I want to remind you that this idea that there are galactics who are in process of taking us over, in essence, conquering your countries. Well, if this is not true, then basically you might as well revert to your own local police department for rules and regulations.